So the WNBA has been breaking records all year. They've been breaking records all year, and obviously, Caitlin Clark is breaking the records. And it's funny because a lot of people are going to be talking about how the Caitlin Clark, like, how she had, like, 2.5 million people watching her game, and then as soon as her game, like, doesn't happen, as soon as she's out, they tank in viewership. And I think we have to look at this two ways, and that it tanks in comparison to Caitlin Clark. Just like in the 90s, the NBA games that did not have Michael Jordan playing tanked compared to Michael Jordan games. But we have to also take into account that they're still breaking records. Like, they are breaking record. Like, if you're looking at some of the WNBA regular seasons, obviously 1.19 million viewers on ESPN platforms. Hilariously, a picture of Storm and the Aces, when the only games on ESPN, as far as I'm aware, that broke 1 million were all Caitlin Clark games. And funnily enough, the ESPN2 record is higher than ESPN1 because one of the Clark Reese games was on ESPN2. Set single game attendance record in 22 years, which is crazy. And all-time records for digital consumption and merchandise sales. Look, I would say 75% of that is based on Caitlin Clark. But we have to also take into account, obviously the viewer numbers weren't there for yesterday's games, but on the game Sunday, the Liberty and Aces game 1, it was the most viewed semi-final game ever, with like nearly just a tad under 1 million viewers. Yes, the Lynx and the Sun didn't have that many viewers because, let's be real, no one wants to watch the Connecticut Sun play basketball. And for everyone who being like, oh, Caitlin Clark set the record against the Sun, I'm sorry, if that was against the Liberty, it would have been an almost unbreakable record. Would have been, I would say, very, very close to unbreakable. And for people that are saying, oh, but like people don't really care, like if you listen to like Robin Lundberg, who was at the game, if you actually just watch clips from the game yesterday in the New York Liberty, like, you cannot say that these are not Liberty fans or they're there for Caitlin Clark. This is the Barclays Center. I've been in the Barclays Center for Nets games. It's dead. The Barclays Center is dead for Nets games. It's about a call being overturned.
Fans, following video review, the Liberty's challenge has been deemed successful.
So I'm watching this and I'm just like, you have to just take into account, like, you can point out that, yes, obviously the games with Caitlin Clark are going to have more viewers. But you could also say that the league is growing. Like, the Liberty have tens of thousands of fans that are going to games regularly. The Golden State Valkyries have already sold out their season tickets. They've sold out 17,000 season tickets. Like, they're going to have 20,000 fans at every single game next year. It is trendy. It is trendy to go to WNBA games. Do people not realize now that, as far as attendance is concerned, the more mainstream this league becomes, unfortunately, the price of tickets are going to go up, but it's another pro sports team. Like, the Liberty are becoming a major pro sports team in New York. They are. Will they ever be the Knicks? No. Will they be bigger than the Nets? Maybe. And I'm not joking. I'm not joking. The Nets are the Nets. I've been to enough Nets games. Even when the Nets are good, the Barclays Center is dead half the time. And it's not even that it's empty. It's just dead. Like, the Knicks, the like hardcore basketball fans from New York, almost entirely are Knicks fans. Every fan I know from New York is a Knicks fan. The crazies are Knicks fans. But, yeah, the Nets are fine. Their fans are fine. Nothing too bad. But the New York Liberty are going to have a lot of fans. The Vegas Aces, much as I hate the Aces, are going to have fans. Like, it is what it is. The more the league grows. And the new market teams, especially Golden State, I think Toronto are Canadians. Like, they are a little bit like if Ireland had a team in any sort of big league that all the Irish fans just go to their games anyway. Like when we entered the Euro, like an Irish team entered the Euro Cup one year. They got spanked in every game. Hibernia. We still sold out the stadium just to watch an Irish team play. I think at least for a couple of years, the Toronto, whatever their names are going to be, are like they're going to be selling out, and then you're going to have the Valkyries selling out. So for people saying, "Oh, this league, like the league's going to break records," if you took out Caitlin Clark's games, the league was still breaking records. Even the lead-ins with Caitlin Clark's games, the league was still breaking records. Even if you took out Caitlin Clark's games, they would be still breaking attendance records. They would be still breaking overall viewership records, at least since 2000 anyway. So the league is in a good spot. Obviously, Caitlin Clark has completely accelerated that. This is the way I'll say it, is that the WNBA has now become, outside of Caitlin Clark, a respected sports league. We haven't heard a lower the rim talk in a year. But Caitlin Clark is such a big athlete that Caitlin Clark is a bigger draw than any individual basketball player on the planet right now. Like the only teams on average that had more viewers than the Indiana Fever in the NBA were the Lakers, the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Warriors. Like she was more viewed than 26 of the 30 NBA teams. So, like that has to be taken into account. Like Caitlin Clark's Fever had more viewers than the freaking Sixers, than Wemby. Like, and this team sucked for a while. But while Caitlin Clark is on another stratosphere, like in my opinion, it's like I'm trying to think. Let's just say women's tennis. Let's just say women's tennis in the 2000s. Like Serena Williams, when she actually early 2000s when she was coming up, because there was a spell like where she was kind of in and out of the sport in the mid 2000s. Like she would have smashed every record if she was not kind of in and out of sport from, I would say, from probably 2003, 2004 ish to maybe 2010. There were a lot of gaps in there, but like let's just say when she was coming up and she was the star, she was the star. Like there were like women's tennis was in a good spot. Like Hingis was still pretty good. Justine Enam is coming in. Amelie Mauresmo. All the Russian players. Sharapova obviously was there, who was almost as big a draw as at times as Serena. Was never as good. I'll say it in the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark rivalry. Angel Reese is the Sharapova of it. But you had all of those players. So the sport was in a really good place, but it just went to another stratosphere whenever Serena Williams played. And that's the way it is, where it's like, even when Caitlin Clark is not there, it's very clear that the sport is very healthy. The sport is, without question, going to be profitable in the next couple of years. Like, in the next 3 years, the fact that the NBA owns 50% of the league is going to screw the WNBA, because they're only getting 50% of the money, and the NBA will have made back their all the NBA teams will have made back their investments in the next 3 years, and they're just going to be profiting. Like the NBA are just going to be profiting, but again, that's how investment works. In 5 years' time, the WNBA is going to be like, people are going to be talking about salaries and the TV deal, but the NBA is going to be profiting 50% of the going to be taking 50% of their revenue. But again, that's why they put the money in at the start. But the league's in a really good spot. It really is. Like, record-breaking viewerships, record-breaking attendance without Caitlin Clark. But with Caitlin Clark, it's a reason why women's basketball is probably the biggest women's sport right now. Especially in the States. Like, maybe gymnastics. But, like, I'll say this right now. Like, I'd be clued into tennis. I would be. Like, it was my first sport till I was 16. It was the sport that I would have watched the most growing up. I'd be very clued in. Caitlin Clark is a bigger draw than like a Coco Gauff. Caitlin Clark is a bigger draw than, I'm trying to think of like recently really, really good young players like that were coming through. Well, to be fair, there hasn't really been that like Serena Williams level superstar. But like, obviously much bigger than like an Emma Raducanu, especially when she came through during the US Open. Is she a bigger draw than Simone Biles? No. No. Ooh, no, but like team sports is a bit different. Like Simone Biles isn't really going to sell merchandise with their face, whereas Caitlin Clark probably is, because team sports are a bit different. But you've got a really healthy league now, and to say anything otherwise is just ignoring stuff or just wanting to dunk on the WNBA to dunk on the WNBA. You've got what is now a really healthy sports league with one player who is bigger than the league. Caitlin Clark is bigger than the league. But that doesn't mean that compared to, no offense to all the players in that late 2000s period, no offense to your Candace Parker, your Sylvia Fowles, Taurasi to an extent, as great as they were as players, they are not the same, like, marketable. They're not going to be as well known as in the future your Sabrinas, your Aaliyah Bostons, who I think is 100 times more marketable than Aja Wilson, by the way. Like the likes of Stewie and stuff, Flaw J when she comes in, Juju when they come in. Like, the sport's in a really good place, and I'm just not going to be one of those channels that makes this video basically saying ha ha ha, doing the Nelson thing, for the fact that the WNBA had less viewers without Caitlin Clark than with Caitlin Clark. No shit. But I think it's also disingenuous to not mention they've also broken basically every single viewership record. If Caitlin Clark games were taken away, they would still be breaking records. It's just obviously Caitlin Clark's bigger than the league. But anyway, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.